So in a bit of a tougher than expected fight to defend his WBO light flyweight championship, Kosei Tanaka manages to successfully defend it against Rangsan Kayanram, aka Palangpol CP Freshmart. Managed to TKO him in the 9th round. It was a good fight. Kayanram, aka CP Freshmart, was pretty difficult, especially early on. He was showing that he had almost as much hand speed as Tanaka did. You know, Tanaka's a guy that has heretofore kind of lived and died on what's been a pretty solid hand speed advantage, especially in combinations over most of his opponents. He's also, pretty hard puncher as well, and a very hard body puncher, especially. The 1-2 and then the left hook to the body behind the 1-2 after it. The 1-2-3, where the 3 is the left hook to the body, is one of the better ones really in the sport. One of the better ones in boxing, I think. And it proved to be, something that was a very big boon to him in his last couple of fights against Moises Fuentes and Angel Acosta. Here against Palangpol, it was actually working fairly well in the first round at first, but there are certain occasions where Tanaka can leave himself a bit open. It's almost like he'll sometimes pull straight back and he'll kind of pose after he throws a combination. And in the midst of him doing exactly that, he was kind of posing, almost like squatting with his weight like towards his ass, basically. Kayanram managed to throw a right hand after Tanaka had, missed with kind of a 1-2, then pulled back. That right hand landed flush, and Tanaka got dropped. Really more of a balance shot than anything. Tanaka didn't look hurt at all, really, from the shot. But, as he got up, he definitely was looking to try and get some get back, throwing back pretty hard and, continuing to circle just as he had kind of started the fight doing. Palangpol in the second and third round, as I kind of alluded to before, was giving Tanaka a little bit of difficulty with the fact that he was able to kind of keep up with him hand speed wise, and they're virtually about the same height. Tanaka had a slight reach advantage, I believe, but you wouldn't have necessarily known that considering the fact that Palangpol, he was throwing especially the jab straight up the middle, giving Tanaka a pretty consistent issue with his jab. But whenever Tanaka managed to kind of make it more of like a combo and move, and be able to circle Palangpol, he definitely had the advantage. It was really where he would sometimes pull straight back, or if he would kind of linger on the inside, where Palangpol tended to have a bit more of a strategic advantage, simply because it seemed like he was really putting a lot more into his shots. He was really sitting down on his punches a lot more so, whereas Tanaka was trying to kind of do damage based off of the snap and the pop of his shots. The kind of the power from speed issue, as opposed to Palangpol, who was really sitting down and trying to land hard. Even his jab was really like one of those kind of jackhammer-esque. I'm really like stepping into the jab types. That said, though, Tanaka started to kind of get into a better rhythm in the second and third round. I think the fourth might be one where you can argue that Palangpol might have actually won it. He did land a number of really good jabs, a couple of right hands, and a couple of left hooks, too. He was starting to maybe scuff up Tanaka's face a little bit. Tanaka's face shows damage real easily, though. It's something that I've noticed watching his fights since he pretty much kind of came across as one of the champions. Kind of arrived as one of the champions. But from the fifth round, and then especially the sixth round. The sixth round, it seemed like, was the first round. The fifth round, you could see a little bit of it, but the sixth round, you could really tell that by that point, Tanaka was starting to kind of break Palangpol down. He was starting to really hurt him to the body. It seemed like the accumulation, especially of the left hooks. He landed a double left hook in the sixth round that really buckled Palangpol, sent him straight backwards. And from that point forward, Palangpol was pretty much fighting with his hands towards his waist, or like at the very least around his waistline, in order to try and protect his body. And of course, that allowed it so that Tanaka was able to land a bit more to the head. He started being a little bit more open and throwing those combinations to the head. A lot of really nice uppercuts. A lot of times he would kind of rip the left uppercut, then rip the right uppercut right behind it, and just jut off to the side, like almost at an angle, like a 90-degree angle. Really, really good stuff from Tanaka there. The seventh and the eighth, I thought, Palangpol, even though he was starting to go backwards a little bit, he was actually doing pretty well. He was looking to try and almost kind of pull counter Tanaka into a big right hand. And there was a couple of moments where it seemed like he was pretty successful in doing that, especially in the eighth round, where he actually managed to open up a cut over Tanaka's right eye. There's a couple of left hooks and, like I kind of mentioned before, those stiff jabs. Managed to open that cut, and he was starting to, look a little bit worse for wear. Just up under the eyes, you could see that his eyes were a little bit swollen by that point. But at the end of the 8th round, about a minute to go, Tanaka ripped Palangpol with a mean left hook to the chin, and finally it seemed like he was really hurting him again. Knocked him straight back. Palangpol was throwing back in kind, trying to get him back for that, basically, trying to open up with those power shots that he was trying to land all night, but he hadn't necessarily, except for the jab especially. But in the 9th round, it was at that point it was basically the beginning of the end. The 9th round, Tanaka came out with a lot more fire. He threw a 1-2. The first 1-2 landed just short, and he threw another 1-2 right behind it. It was literally like a 4-punch combo of 1-2, 1-2. And the second right cross landed flush on Palangpol's chin, dropped him like straight back on his ass, and at that point, he got up. He was swinging for the fences to try and get Tanaka off of him, but Tanaka just the hand speed was too much, the power was too much, the snap and the sharpness was too much. Palangpol really wasn't landing his shots. He was kind of like pushing his punches and almost like pushing Tanaka off of him to try and get a reprieve, but Tanaka just stayed on top of him, and the ref wound up actually stopping it up on the ropes. I did think the stoppage was a little bit early. Palangpol was still throwing, albeit somewhat reflexively, and he was getting hit with quite a few shots up until that point, but to me, especially a world championship like that, might as well give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he was completely out of it, like he was gonna really get suffer irreparable damage or something like that. I do think that he probably could have lasted a few beats longer. But that said, I do think that Tanaka, it was basically the beginning of the end, and he was starting to truly finish the job that he had kind of worked all the way up until that point to do. He broke him down, and he eventually kind of finished him. Killed the body, and then the head was there for him and took it out. Took him right out. And so from here, it's looking like there's a good likelihood that the much kind of talked about unification between Kosei Tanaka and the WBA champion Ryuichi Taguchi may be able to happen later this year. They've been talking about it possibly for the New Year's, the big New Year's cards that Japan tends to hold, on New Year's Eve and the day before as well, December 30th and 31st. And that would be a great fight. It's two absolute top light flyweights. Currently, I'd say Tanaka, he should be really number 1 or number 2. I haven't quite made a list out yet. Taguchi should be really probably about number 3, number 4, maybe just slightly behind Tanaka, considering a couple of the recent wins that Tanaka's had. But even Taguchi, he managed to get a very explosive knockout victory in his last fight against Robert Barrera, which I actually expected to be a closer fight, considering the fact that Barrera and Carlos Canizales had a very close fight, and Canizales gave Taguchi a very, very tough fight. And so I was thinking, at the very least, equal level guys should be able to give Taguchi more problems than he did, but Taguchi went in there and just completely beat the hell out of him, knocked him out. But I'm really looking forward to that fight. Hopefully it happens. Hopefully it comes through. They've been talking about it pretty much all year now. So now it seems like the way is clear for it to happen. In addition to that, it looks like light flyweight is really starting to heat up, not unlike the way that super flyweight kind of has been recently, albeit to a lesser extent, of course. We have this weekend Milan Melindo going to be defending his IBF title against Heki Butler, the former number 1 strawweight in the world, former WBA minimum weight champion. Really good fight between those two. And Butler, just before he was dethroned by Byron Rojas last year, he was looking to try and start unifying at 105, and so I wouldn't be surprised if he'd look to try and do that at 108 as well. Milan Melindo has already made it very well known that he wants to start unifying. Of course, he's looking for that big money from the Japanese fighters who are kind of ruling the roost at 108 right now. Amidst Tanaka, Taguchi, and Kenshiro, the WBC champion. And then Kenshiro actually has a very, very difficult fight coming up pretty soon here. Of course, he just won the title from Ganigan Lopez, and now he's going to be fighting another guy that defeated Ganigan Lopez in Pedro Guevara. Pedro Guevara, who incidentally, I believe the Ring magazine actually has Guevara ranked number 1 at light flyweight, even though he doesn't even have one of the titles. It just shows you how good of a fighter Guevara is. He's really difficult. But I think that's going to do it for this one, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.